Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order for the regular meeting of the Board of Directors for December 4th. And Deborah, could you do roll call, please?
Certainly. Hamaji?
Here.
Bentley?
Here.
Hurt?
Here.
Byram?
Here.
Hildreth?
Here.
Lair?
Here.
Selden?
Here.
Walker?
Here.
Yang?
Here.
And Matheson.
Here.
Thank you. And are there any changes to our minutes from October 30th?
No.
Okay, seeing none, we'll say
Members
they are
are
approved.
entitled to speak during the designated open forum portion of this meeting, whether attending in person or via Zoom. Each speaker is limited to 2 minutes. If speaking on behalf of another member, additional instructions provided on the forum slips must be followed. All speakers must clearly state their full name and Rossmore address before beginning their comments. Please be advised that this meeting is being broadcast and recorded. By attending and participating in this meeting, including during the open forum, each attendee agrees to and releases the Rossmore Walnut Creek from all liability for their voice and or likeness being recorded and broadcast for any lawful purpose without compensation. Thank you.
Okay, Deborah, I believe we have Cindy Silva on Zoom. Is she available?
Yes, she is.
There she is. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone, and it's delightful to see you, and happy holidays. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. A few things to note and update you on this morning, but in the spirit of the holidays, I will keep it short. To start, I will mention that this last Tuesday evening, we had the annual reorganization of the City Council. This is the time when we honor our outgoing mayor, who in this case was Cindy Darling, the other Cindy. And we select our new mayor and mayor pro tem for 2026. And we selected Kevin Wilk to be mayor for the next year and Matt Francois to be mayor pro tem for the coming year. There will also be, in the next month, some changes in liaison assignments. So this may be the last meeting that I'm actually with you as the liaison from the City Council to you all. Also this week, on Monday, we celebrated the ribbon cutting and opening of the new all-weather ball fields at Heather Farm Park. These were funded with private funds being raised by the soccer club and funded with Measure O funds that were approved by the voters in 2022. Joining us at the opening were a number of youth soccer teams, as well as members of the Walnut Creek Creekers softball. And if you don't know who the Creekers are, they're the senior softball club, Creekers being a play on words. That was, speaking of Heather Farm Park, in late November, and after the city received a AAA bond rating from Standards & Poor's, the City Council approved the issuance of lease revenue bonds for up to $60 million to finance the construction of the Heather Farm Aquatics and Community Center. Getting a AAA bond rating as a municipality is almost like 1 in a million. It's very difficult to do, but it really attests to the financial integrity of the city of Walnut Creek and many years of work on that. The bonds were actually sold yesterday. There were 11 bidders, and the winning bid is actually the lowest interest rate. So you want to be able to get a really low interest rate. And we sold them to Bank of America with a 2.2% interest rate. We had our budget figures had assumed that we would have a 2.6% interest rate. So that difference of 0.4 of a point interest rate translates to about a savings of $200,000 per year over the 7 years of the bonds, or about $1.4 million in savings. We also in November approved the construction contract with Lathrop Construction. We had 4 bidding companies, and Lathrop was the lowest price, which you have to do in public works contracts. What was exciting is that Lathrop Construction is an international construction company with a long list of experience in the public sector arena, because public sector construction projects can be a bit different than the private sector construction projects. And as I have mentioned in the past, this is probably demolition will start soon now that the bonds have been issued. And this will be about a 2-year project. So we hope that we will be opening it sometime in late 2027. At the upcoming December 16th meeting of the City Council, we will have a presentation from John Muir Health and Kaiser Permanente on the potential financial impacts of federal actions as this relates to the healthcare industry and our healthcare delivery services locally at the state level and the federal level. Our meeting on December 16th, as always, starts at 6 p.m. This presentation will be sometime in the first half hour. So anybody is welcome to come and hear the presentation or to watch it through the city's website at walnut-creek.ca.gov, and it's up on the slide in front of you. On a lighter note, online registration opened yesterday for the winter arts and recreation classes and programs, and you can view the catalog online through the city's website, and you'll get to it from a banner ad that's on the homepage of the website. And finally, I will mention that since we are in the holiday season, Center Reps will be presenting a fresh take on the holiday classic A Christmas Carol. The production blends Victorian charm with digital delights. And opening performance is next week on December 10th, and it will run through Sunday, December 21st, and you can get your tickets through the Leisure Center website. And I'm happy to answer questions. And thank you, as always, for the work that you do for your community and our community at large.
Thank you, Cindy. Does anybody have any questions for Cindy? All right. Seeing none, well, thank you for your presentation, and we look forward to seeing you at the City Council meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Now we're going to move on to the financial status reports. Todd Arterburn.
Good morning, board. Good morning, everybody. Obviously, you saw this month, we kind of inundated you with a pretty more robust deck of numbers. And, you know, at the Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, I went through, and I kind of do it real quick today, too, and what you have, because it is new, and we finally have turned the corner in terms of having balance sheets and cash flow statements. So, huge milestone, and shout out to my group finally after all these months of the work on the implementation. You're also going to see one new report in here, and I think that's something that, as we now have the full comprehensive deck, that myself and the board, we can discuss what that final new package might look like every month. The new report, we've always provided a budget to actual, and that budget to actual has always been through, October for this meeting. We were able to finally actually do a new report that shows, once we close the financial period, what the remaining budget is in the year. And so that's included in the deck. So you actually have two budget to actual reports. One is spending October to October, one is spending to October, and then the remaining annual budget, okay? So real quick, just to kind of go through, the other thing we're gonna do going forward is start highlighting variances that have a certain range to them, right? So now going forward every month, we'll try to focus on those things that seem at a certain magnitude that we need to discuss and kind of focus on those numbers. And we can kind of roll those through today real quick. And then what I've done is on those areas we've highlighted, where it's appropriate, I've expanded the chart of accounts so you can see what makes up the subcomponents of those variances. Hey, so Jeff, if we can real quick, what you'll have in your deck from top to bottom, we now have consolidated financials. So this is in line with what the audit produces every year, but we haven't historically looked at them as a group, which is actually taking the RWC, the RPM side, and the capital side together. We still have some reporting nomenclature fine-tuning, obviously, for some of the new initiatives and changing some of these report names. So we kind of, if you think about how we're going to roll through these decks going forward, we have a consolidated position, which is super important because it really does stake to our overall health. And that is combined of an income statement, a balance sheet, and a cash flow. We then have the trust or the capital fund, which we're going to start calling it. We're going to have that balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow as well. We have historically never budgeted trust movements, because it is a CapEx fund. So that is something to discuss. So there is no budget to act report we've ever generated for the trust or the capital fund activity. And then we go through the two different divisions. We go through RWC, and then we go through RPM. And each one of those are made up of the budget to actual through October. The next report would be the budget to actual with what's remaining in the year. We then have our income statement by month, so you can see variations month to month in our income statements. You'll then have your balance sheet, and finally you'll have your cash flow statement. So just kind of orient you guys to the new deck of numbers. Jeff, if you go ahead and just scroll down, we're going to start at the RPM side on the very bottom. So we're going to work our way from the bottom to the top and kind of speak to, so just you can go all the way to the very end, then we're going to work our way back up. Okay, so obviously just want to show you the cash flow really quick. This is a document, the cash statement of cash flows we've never actually had. It's so important as we start looking at future planning too. And you'll notice that the cash at the end of the period, now if you go up of 1894, Jeff, if you just go up a page now, you'll see that in the bank, you'll see that sum 1894, right? So all the numbers tie out, right? So the cash flow relates directly to the balance sheet now. So we can see the clean financial picture. Go back down to the cash flow page, Jeff. You'll also see net income. This is indirect cash flow, so it's taking our net income and then making changes to that net income, which is why we've needed the balance sheet before we could ever do this financial. And you'll see the net income of 266. All right, Jeff, go ahead and scroll up now to, keep going up. I'll tell you when to stop. We want to go up to, right here. Okay, so now this is a report you are familiar with. This is the budget to actual through October. And you can see where there's some areas. I'm just going to go highlight a couple of variances that we brought to the Finance Committee that Adrian and Dan and Jeff and I started coming up with some of those thresholds. And I know Dan, I think, will talk about a little bit in his report. If you look at the variances on the billable services, both in operating and reserve, just to be clear, I know we've said this in the past, that is work that Jeroen's team does as it affects the operating fund on mutuals or the reserve fund. So depending on the type of work, that's what the differential between those two revenue streams are. And then you'll also see billable services for landscape. Those numbers are obviously, we do our best we can to project those, but obviously that's based on work that the mutual contracts with us versus a third-party vendor. We are, favorable on the operating side, unfavorable slightly on the operating side, favorable on the reserve side, and then obviously we're favorable on the landscaping. So as much as we try to have the best accurate forecast we can on those, it also has to do with work coming in and whether or not they use a third-party vendor or they use us internally. So no real, hopefully we'll stay where we are and in terms of a surplus on those. And then if you look at the employee benefits section, this is an area where we highlighted the variance. You'll see there on your screen of 102,731. It's because it was over $100,000. We went ahead and expanded that. And you can see that this variance being under budget has really to do with kind of across the board as we've gone into employee benefits, how we budget medical expenses, if we hire someone that has no dependents or we bring someone that has more dependents, kind of through each one of those categories, there are some variances. None of them are, once you expand it, are shocking, but obviously now that we have this information, obviously the next step is how we start using this information to be able to provide better analytics and better deep dives into what are some of those trends and how we're looking at it and be able to come back to you guys with more definitive what's really causing some of those variances. Jeff, go ahead and scroll down one more page. Oops, sorry. Oh. Too far. Okay, yeah. So professional services, also we expanded that. You'll see that the other professional services is running very light. That's a large portion of that variance. That area is one that I want to do further homework on. Is it a budgeting issue? We just really didn't use some of those services. So that's an area that needs some little further research. On the administrative side, I can speak to a couple of them. We have done some alignment in terms of, and if you remember from our budget hearings, some of the supply categories we kind of realigned, right? So next year, one of our big challenges is also to make sure that everything we budgeted are being coded there, right? So right now we have some little bit of misalignments where some things that are coded to, for example, administrative supplies, might be up in facility supplies. So we're working to clean that up, and we talked about that a little bit during the budget hearing. The equipment usage fee, that is a budgeting issue where we annually adjust the depreciation on our fixed asset usage. So that's something that we will work on how we spread those dollars so it doesn't show up as a negative variance or a big variance for the year. And then overall at RPM, we're $266,000 favorable to budget. And we're going to eat into a little bit of that. I don't want to be held for a number, but it's very favorable to where we thought we'd be. So it's looking very healthy, even with some of those changes. So any questions on RPM?
Any questions for RPM? Okay.
Okay, go ahead and now, Jeff, scroll up to RWC. Did you start on the cash flow on this one as well? Once again, you'll see the same exact format, layout. You'll see our cash at the end of the period. You'll also see, if you go up to the next balance sheet page, going up now, Jeff, you'll see all the cash and everything ties to the balance sheet. So there is a lot of integrity in the data. NetSuite is a truly closed system, so one of the big advantages of our moving forward into NetSuite, we're going to start really seeing, because it allows us to do auditing and look at our review of our internal financials at a lot closer, and if anything wasn't correct, it jumps out pretty quick. So that's a very good thing. And then if you go up to Jeff real quick on the income statement.
Can I ask a question, Todd?
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, thank you for the full set of financial statements. It's a much better picture and understand. Took a lot to get there, so we really appreciate it. But a question on the RWC balance sheet.
Yeah.
Other current liabilities shows a debit balance of $1.4 million.
Yeah.
And I realize I didn't get that question to you in advance, so maybe you could get back to us later on what would result in a debit balance of $1.4 million.
Yeah, I will, absolutely. And we're also, as I mentioned, the finance committee too, I think there needs to be some, I don't want to say we need another report, but I think one of the things is with intercompany transactions between the funds, those things can change based on when we close and what's out there. So I think providing the board with a snapshot of the intercompany activity will also answer some of those questions, Dwight. So we'll get back to you on that for sure. All right, Jeff, go ahead and go up to the, keep going. Actually, let's look at this one. Go back down. Let's start with this one real quick. Go to keep going down one more. Okay. Okay, obviously we're a break-even budget, right? So when you look at the remaining budget, you'll see that we are favorable by $936,000. So our remaining budget is, you'll see, so where this report, just because I want to orientate you, this report really has a lot more power in the individual GL lines. Because we're zero-based budget, you're always going to see the remaining budget is either that surplus or deficit as a total, but it's very valuable to see where we've spent money, what's left within individual line items, right? And so what you also have in your packet this month is this report. I've included the entire detail for every GL code, right? So if you need some extra time at night to more reading material, I provided all the details so you guys can really start kind of familiarizing yourself with what this report is. All right, Jeff, go ahead now, go up to the variances one. So keep going up to the very top of, yep, right here. Okay, so on this one we wanted to highlight, you'll see I expanded media revenue because media revenue was $88,000 favorable. And as we all know, Ann does a fantastic job. And so one of the great things too is being able to get these financial reports going forward now into the hands of the senior managers so they can provide commentary as well, which we historically haven't done. So you'll see that media revenue is, up, and you can see that that's in, majority of that is in newspaper advertising and newspaper subscription. And then, like I said, going forward, we'll get these reports out and I can actually get the senior team to comment on some of those drivers for us, right? The next one is employee expenses. And also when we move forward, we will be able to highlight and annotate the report so you actually can have your eyes driven to where those variances are versus just the sheer, black and white data dump. So under employee expenses, this one is this is probably something, we could have Arnold also comment too on. You can see it's pretty much across the board, right? Recruitment fees, staff support, dues and memberships, and even meal and travel and meal allowance. So we're favorable to budget, right? So that's a good thing, right? There's no giant surprises other than when we get into more of our forecasting culture, taking these numbers now and saying where are we going to really end up, which now that we have October, we're going to come back and solidify, and we'll send a communication out to the board where we actually think that net end of year number will be at. Facilities maintenance, once again on this one too, this is where some of those supply things hit, like we're over in supplies, but we need to align all of the supply accounts. And so that's one of the things I mentioned before. Go ahead and do the next page, Jeff. So you'll see facilities maintenance, we're obviously under budget. We'll see that on the trust facility maintenance, we're all very familiar with that, on that road paving. So you'll see that we've actually, in the very last there, 625, we now have 437 expended. We'll see some more of those bills come in from the work that was just done. So that some of that will be used up. As soon as we have visibility in those invoices, we'll be able to forecast our end of our year. Landscape maintenance, a lot of that is with the greens and fairways and Mark, so that's an area where I am having him come back and provide me some commentary. So there's some further research on that, but timing on supplies. We certainly also know that the pigs got out there, so we know that that number is going to have some expenses hit it here in the next month because of the pig damage. And then the next one on administrative expenses. Administrative supplies, we had, once again, some of those things. If you look at the, postage and delivery, I think these were all the small tools and equipment. Once again, that's also the supply issue. So some of the supplies above still comes to consistency in how we record supplies, but we're also still favorable. So we're in a really good position right now through October with 936,000. I think the biggest challenge now is to go back and really nail that number down for the year end so you guys know what we can expect. We can do that. Yeah, Janet.
I have a question under professional services under landscape maintenance. Is that related to the pickleball, or why is that one so high?
Which one are you looking at?
Where it's 74000 on page 58. Professional services under landscape. Seven
Oh.
4000.
Yeah, so I don't have the detail open on that
Oh, okay.
because of the percentage change. Probably just missed that one, but Jen, I can get back to you on that. I just need to expand
Okay, I'm
the-
just curious
expand
what
the
it is
detail.
for.
Yeah, and I think we're going to find a place where we're going to come into the right level of, and I know Dan, and we'll talk about it briefly, but coming into what is the right variance threshold and how do we come prepared to answer those questions on the variances where things are, out of sync. And I think we've also talked to the finance committee about how going forward into 26, we maybe do a deeper dive at the quarter reviews on some of those variances versus the monthly ones, and be able to provide a little more in-depth analysis as a secondary report to have, now that we have Jason and some of the FP&A help, to actually dig in and do some of that audit work. And so we can do a deeper dive into.
Just to clarify,
quarterly.
though, that section there that you're asking about, the total 73000 for landscape maintenance is above that. The professional services that you're referencing are not related to the pickleball project. That's just a category in and of itself that covers quite a few different things that has a slight variance to it. So it's not related to the pickleball project. It's professional services that we use for a variety of different things. So we can give a little more detail, but just wanted to clarify it wasn't related to landscape or pickleball.
Get it on the budget to actual to the annual budget report that you have in your deck, that area would be expanded, so you guys could go down and look at that. I don't have it in front of me.
Todd, you
Yeah,
talked
yeah.
about something, you just mentioned something that was talked about in finance. Could you elaborate on the plan to do the quarterly deep dive with the financials? Could you tell us more?
Yeah, so, when we look at, as we try to get better and better at our budgeting and putting better seasonality in our budget, we've talked to at length. A month, especially we started in January and February, right? There could be if there's some really large variance that we didn't expect or something happened, we can speak to it. But really the quarterly trend, so at the end of March, so when we have our board meeting in April, looking at the first quarter, I would want to see that have a little more robust analysis on variances, right? And have causation applied to them. So this is because of a timing issue. This was weather related. This was an act of God. We just didn't budget for it, or we had the timing wrong. So we can actually all be on the same page as we move forward. It takes obviously more work. So as I focus my team on expectation that every quarter, I really want them to review the variances and provide detail, including talking to the senior leadership team and getting their input on what happened, because, I can't necessarily see if an invoice hasn't come in. I'm just looking at the results, and so it needs the participation of the whole team to speak to some of those variance timings. And so I would like to set up in 26, a more deep variance analysis, Leanne, so we actually look at the quarters in a little deeper level.
Adrian?
Yes. If we could turn to page 516, please, which is the cash flow statement for RWC. I'm a little concerned about the fact that at the beginning of the period, January 1st, we were at 5.3 million. Now we're down to 0.7. Now, overall, our cash position is fine. But I look at this right now, cash at end of period, 769, and I look at our accounts payable. Payable is 4 times what the cash available is. If I didn't see the overall picture, I'd be worried about that.
So if you scroll up, so a couple things. One, on the cash flow, we also can do this on a monthly basis, right? So we can show that change over time. So for example, if cash comes in for like the insurance payments and we're sitting in our bank and we make a big payment then in January, February, we're going to see some pretty big cash spikes that then go away. The other thing is, Jeff, if you go up to the balance sheet real quick, one page up, you'll see down here under other current assets that is not expanded, we also have outside the bank, which is the bank cash, we also have investment cash, right? And so the way NetSuite doesn't clarify that is the fact that, we're not touching that investment cash on our operations, right? So the cash at the end of the period is looking at the cash that's sitting in the actual bank accounts, not in the investment accounts. And so we can spend a little more time maybe on how we show that maybe better, Adrian, so we can have more confidence. Obviously, the greatest thing we want to do most here, aside from now having the data to actually use it and have sound financial decisions, certainly is to build trust in the system and understand the ins and outs. The other thing that happens with that cash too, on the cash flows too, if, like I said, those intercompanies, if we have a weird payroll accrual, depending on the timing of the month, when we close at the end of the month, we can have swings month to month on, right, cash coming in, cash coming out. So under, for example, that other cash on our BDC, we also have timing where money comes in. Let's say like the insurance refund money comes in, for example, it could be in a cash clearing account. It hasn't actually hit the bank yet, so it's in other assets. So we can also expand that detail and, go as deep as you guys want. And we can find what that right reporting looks like. And then obviously have the ability for you guys all to hopefully get your decks now on time every month, be able to send in all the questions so we can answer them, not just for yourself, but also for the community. So. Okay. Thank you very much. And I just want to give a shout out to my staff because it took a long time to get here. So it was great.
Thank you very much, Todd. We're very pleased with the report. It's kind of fun to go through it.
Yeah, it really is, and it really has been worth the investment for everyone to get to this point. And I know it's been frustrating. So thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to the general manager's report. Jeff. Oh, before we do that, I just want to tell the residents this discussion was even more detailed in the Finance Committee meeting that met on December 2nd. So if you're interested in more discussion about the just the notations and the detail of the report, feel free to look at the video for December 2nd. All right, I'm sorry, Jeff. Go right ahead.
That's okay. Good morning. So yesterday, there was a significant announcement in the Rossmore News. And prior to that, there was a posting and some information getting out regarding the Creekside Grill and a significant transition that will be taking place at the end of this year and into next year. The Creekside Grill, which has been a staple in Rossmore since 2010 in the opening of the Creekside Clubhouse, will be coming to a close. Their lease ends at the end of this year, and we will be transitioning to a new operator, and it will be the Pair at Rossmore. Wanted to just take a few minutes to reflect on some of the history with the Creekside Grill. It began prior to the actual opening of the Creekside Clubhouse, where they were operating out of the Junior Dollar Clubhouse. And really, they were the first operator to provide ongoing food service in the Rossmore community. When the Creekside restaurant was opened and the clubhouse opened in 2010, certainly it was not without some challenges. There was some acoustical issues in the restaurant, and we had to make some adjustments. There was some challenges with getting the liquor license and having the ability to operate the bar and provide drinks for the dinner service and so forth. But all of that was overcome and the Creekside operation really had a good, long history and has really become part of the fabric of Rossmore. Many residents go there almost on a daily basis and sometimes for 2 visits a day. So we understand that it is an important and valued amenity for many residents. The owners, Stan and Ann Gideon, have been a good partner over the years, especially during the pandemic when they worked with their staff, worked with the board, and especially the community to continue operation and provide as many different avenues to food service as they could in keeping the community safe. So we definitely recognize and appreciate the value of their staff and of their operation. But it is certainly possible to think fondly and remember and value the Creekside Grill and what it has meant to so many people, but also look forward to a new opportunity in the Rossmore, the Pear at Rossmore, which will be opening in early 2026. So why this change and why now? The board decided about 2 years ago to undertake a food and beverage study. That study was really intended to look at what are all of the opportunities within Rossmore, what is the interest, what is the need, and what is the ability for this community to support additional food and beverage service. There was surveys done. There was small group workshops. There was food and beverage tours. There was many presentations. We had a town hall meeting on this. And the end result was some recommendations from our consultant, Synergy Food Group, that there was ability and there is ability for this community to support additional food service. There was also a recommendation that food service be provided by one partner, one operator in the future. Somebody that operates not only the Creekside, the restaurant at Creekside, but could operate other food and beverage services throughout the valley. Based on that recommendation, the board authorized a request for proposals to search for the best partner in food and beverage to move forward. We received many responses and brought that down to 4 that we did interviews with. Our consultants did extensive background on those operators to make sure they were solid and sound. We evaluated food, we evaluated financial strength, and overall reputation. After that extensive search, which did include the existing operator and their desire, the board settled on the Pear at Rossmore and Rodney Worth, who is the operator. And you will learn a lot more about Rodney and his background in the December 10th edition of the Rossmore News, so please look out for that. In the coming weeks, the Creekside Grill will come to a close likely on December 23rd. And at that time, we will have a period of transition. There will be some work done to refresh and remodel the Creekside restaurant and bar, and then a new opening, hopefully very early in 2026. Expanded food service opportunities would then take place over the next several years. The employees that are currently working at the Creekside Grill will certainly have the opportunity and have already met with the new operator, so they will have the opportunity to interview and apply for positions with the new operator, and that is already in the works. So we do thank Stan for his efforts to make the transition smooth as possible, but also appreciate the community during this time of transition for your patience until the new restaurant is open. If there's any questions.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Any questions? Dwight?
Jeff, any chance that we could have Rodney at our next board meeting to lay out his plans. I know it's a little premature at this point just because of the transition, but it would be nice, I think, for the community to meet Rodney as well.
That certainly should be possible, and we will do, and please look for a number of announcements for meet and greet events, for introductions and different opportunities as we roll out the new restaurant. So, yeah.
Okay, very good. Moving on to member forum. Mary, do we have any speakers? Deborah, do we have any online speakers?
There are no speakers over Zoom, so that concludes the member forum.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the resident member committee reports. We'll start with Aquatics and Fitness Advisory, and that chair is Barry Devine. If you could give us your report.
Good morning, one and all. And on behalf of the Aquatics and Fitness Advisory Committee, let me wish you all a safe and happy holiday season this year. Our last meeting was on November 13th, and all of our members were in attendance. We began the meeting by acknowledging Mary Lou Thompson's recognition of a member of the Rossmore Fitness Journeys, which you may recall from previous accounts, is a new front for honouring certain members of the resident community, this time focusing on those that have had some limited problem in their physical abilities or health and have taken a program under the fitness organisation, one arm or the other, and have made progress. And in this week's newspaper, you'll find the second one has been nominated. Hope you'll give that some attention. Among the RWC employees who were acknowledged in October for their exceptional performance, 9 of them were from the Aquatics and Fitness team, which we take upon reflection an indication of their strong contributions and professionalism. At a previous meeting, there was a request made by the committee for the Community Services Director, Ann Matola. Don't see Ann here yet. Perhaps she's on the connection. Starting with a reminder that she would begin to give us some outline of the structure and organization of the Aquatics and Fitness entity. And so she talked about the organization, reminding us that it was only recently that the aquatics and fitness groups were put together as a common denominator, if you will. And also they were under a contractor before, so now we're having staff manage the organization. We felt this organization, being under a staff manager, has made it possible to strengthen oversight, build depth among the staff team, and ensure appropriate budget and personnel authority goes forward. In addition, it's allowed the board, yourselves, to better align services with community priorities, especially by using our trained members of the staff, to offer more classes and group programs rather than primarily one-on-one sessions. The committee's role in understanding and communicating the reasons for schedule changes to the community was highlighted as being important. The director emphasized that the aquatics program is among the highest risk operations of the RWC responsibility. It requires that safety, appropriate lifeguard staffing levels, and regulatory requirements for the various government organizations in the city and community, as well as in the state, must be carefully balanced against the available resources. The resurfacing of the Tyke Creek facility was carefully planned and worked smoothly, and it has, since the meeting completed that I'm reporting on, has been reopened slightly ahead of schedule. And having tested it out to see how the pool is, it is delightful. The lines are very, very clear, and we can see the profits of all of their work. On the fitness front, free 2-hour orientation and assessment consultations are still offered strictly for new residents. Other small group introductions to the equipment available, and floor time by trainers allows for additional guidance to safety and effectively use of equipment. The demand for classes continues to be high, even though nearly twice as many classes are available compared to that of a few years ago. Parking in the Tice Creek facility, I'm sure comes as no surprise to you, continues to be an issue raised by residents. To address the problem, staff are working to schedule some classes at off-peak times to reduce the demand for parking, including some classes in the evening. Fee-based offerings were reported, including specialized classes such as the residents suffering from Parkinson's degrees who have a couple of classes to choose from, as well as small group training and personal training. The club use of fitness space was explained, as was club instructor qualifications. The committee was invited to join staff to analyze this situation in the future without appearing to be overly regulating. Other topics addressed included video classes originally developed during COVID, now produced by Rossmore Television as capacity allows. Perhaps this avenue could provide opportunity for instruction on such topics as water safety and how to get up after a fall, which was offered in a workshop earlier this year. Staffing was also explained, full-time, part-time equivalents, special experience among instructors, and recruitment difficulties. The Aquatics and Fitness Manager, Jackie Carlisle, reported on resident usage of the facilities that she manages. Recruitment remains active, looking for instructors for bar, spin classes, and advanced yoga to meet program needs. She also reported on Camp Rossmore, where participants were invited to participate in a variety of very creative and enjoyable physical activities. Some involved children of residents' families. Director Matola encouraged committee members to act as informed messengers, communicating the why behind schedule and program changes for residents to understand, reaching out directly for clarification so that concerns can be addressed promptly, person to person, when needed. That's the end of my summary. Are there any questions that I might be able to answer?
Okay. Thank you very much, Barry.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Moving on to the Finance Committee, Dan Ring, the chair, if he could give his report.
Good morning. We had our meeting on Tuesday, and as previously stated, the full, and I emphasize full, October financial statements of RWC, RPM, and even consolidated were reviewed. This, for the first time, included the income statements, balance sheets, and cash flows. It was great. Very excited, very happy to see this, and look forward to seeing them in the future. The committee took a straw poll and decided that going forward, we were going to use the number of $50,000 and plus or minus 10% as a barometer to look at the variances explanation that Todd was talking about in the budget versus actual expenditures. This is subject to change. It's just something we thought was a good start. Something that changes by $60,000, but it's on $10 million. Don't know if we really care. Something that changes 25%, but it's on $50. Don't really care. So those are our parameters we're starting with, and we'll see what happens. We look forward to receiving these reports every month. The MTFs will also discuss. We are at 318 units that paid the fee through October 31st, 2025. We are now both behind 2024 in units and revenue. And it looks like we will not meet our budgeted number of 400 units for 2025, which is what the revenue in the capital is based upon. It also goes into question whether the 400 units will be met for 2026 and it's something we probably should be investigating to see what our thoughts are going forward. We also reviewed the enterprise risk management plan, noting that we just like to see a few things classified differently, but no real changes. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions for Dan? Dwight?
So Dan, I really applaud the Finance Committee to make sure that we're looking at what activity variances to budget on a monthly basis, because that is a part of the charter of the Finance Committee. And I really like the approach that you're using is to focus on the major ones so that we all understand that. So thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll have Chair Burke Ferrari give us a review of the Golf Advisory Committee.
Good morning. To start with, the membership of the 4 golf clubs at the end of November, which will be the year-end figure, was 770. It's only 20 people short of the year before, so it's a negligible difference. At our meeting on the 21st of November, we had a discussion about the pickleball fence that's gone up. So I wanted to make a few comments on that. The fence has been up for, I'm not exactly sure, 5 to 6 weeks, something like that. The rules of golf provide for dealing with an obstruction like the fence. So we were able to play the 18th hole on the dollar course pretty much as normal. It was a distraction, but we were able to score it normally. The temporary green now is being used for about the last 2 weeks. The temporary green is a grass circle mowed in the fairway about 100 yards short of where the actual green is. So when we started playing on the temporary green, there were some questions. How do we score this? Do we score it as a normal par 5, which is obviously not? And so there was some confusion. The golf shop has now recommended that we score this as a net par. So I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of describing golf handicaps. Suffice to say that the 18th is, for rated purposes, that's the 6th most difficult hole. Most golfers in Rossmore would have a benefit of a stroke, of a handicap stroke, playing the 18th hole. So what we will be doing now is most people would score a 6 on that hole, and the system then would take that 1 stroke handicap in effect, and it would give them a net par. So if everybody's playing those rules, we're all the same. And it's not ideal, because what happens is that since that's automatic, people finish 17 and they think, okay, well, I'm going to put down a net par, and they just go home. So that's it. So they're only playing 17. Some people would like to play the whole thing, but it doesn't really matter. So we've now learned at the meeting that the fence, which is where it was originally, will be moved, or could be moved, further onto the golf course when the construction of the water realignment pipe takes place, and that it would be moved back when that construction is finished, or it could even be moved further back. But if it just moved back to where it currently is, we could still play a normal 18 holes. And that's important because somewhere in April, we will begin to invite other golfers from other golf clubs to come and play with us. And I don't think we would want to be playing on the temporary green. So we have our fingers crossed. We hope everything goes, that the pipe gets done correctly, and by the time we start inviting other people, that we're back at playing the normal 18 holes. Any questions?
Any questions for Bert? Dwight?
Yes, Dwight.
So Burke, when I look at the charts, when I see the rounds of golf played as well as revenue generated, it's off the charts, if you will. Is the fence impacting that at all in terms of play here in November and December?
We have, I don't know, we have fewer golfers by membership, but we're playing more. I don't know if I don't think that the fence has that much of an effect on it. You might think people would normally play on the 18 hole. They want to go play on the 9 instead, but I don't think that's a case.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Bert.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to the board committee reports. Dwight, can you give us the planning update?
Sure. So the committee this past month began reviewing proposed projects for the 2026 capital budget, including staff recommended priorities. The committee evaluates these items in preparation for presenting recommendations to the board in January, with final approval targeted for February. The Finance Committee will review available capital funding, and both the board and the community will have the opportunity to provide input throughout this process. The committee unanimously approved the proposed site for a mural by the Ceramic Club, and we look forward to their magic as it takes form.
And Jeff, could you give us an update on that?
Yes, so as Dwight just mentioned, the Planning Committee reviewed a proposal by the Ceramic Arts Club to install and create a beautiful mural that would be located in the area pretty much adjacent to the Totem Pole project that was installed back in 2009. The proposal from the Ceramic Arts Club is really an innovative one. They have been in contact and working with and under the advisement of some very talented and experienced consultants in this area. So what they are bringing is very well thought out and will be, as it evolves, brought back to the Planning Committee for ultimate approval. We have on the slide here a little bit of an overview of the project. As you will see, it is somewhat of a freestanding mural. It is meant to be permanent. However, if there is an occasion where we need to do some work in that area or it needs to be relocated for any reason, it is possible to remove and relocate the work of art. Go ahead and go to the next slide there. This is the location where it will likely be, right alongside. It will be also in conjunction with some improvements that the landscape department is already initiating and planning. So it'll kind of go in concert with that. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So you can see a little bit of a rendering. It's kind of hard to put that in there, but the idea is to somewhat hide some of the equipment that is behind there in the utility building. Go ahead and go to the next one. The panels look similar to what you see here. They are fabricated and then installed, and then they can again be moved if necessary. Go ahead. So again, this will be a community project with the ceramics studio, and we'll be coming back once the final design and process and layout is ready to be reviewed. But we are looking for approval from the board at this point to allow this project to proceed in that designated space by the totem poles.
Okay, just a comment. The piece that is shown in the PowerPoint, that is not the piece. The piece hasn't been created
yet. That's just a sample of this of a community project.
Okay. Any questions for Jeff? Susan.
This is not really a question for Jeff. I'd like to express my support for this project. I think the planning, the artistic work is going to be terrific. I just have to share my life experience with murals, particularly on public buildings. So I'm very excited that this is freestanding, because if we have any need in the future to reconfigure buildings or create new buildings, we'll be able to relocate this. So I'm in total support. I just felt compelled to share my experiences with murals. The community loves them, and sometimes it creates challenges with flexibility, but what's great about this project is it's freestanding, and we'll be able to move it.
And Dwight, sorry.
Jeff, it didn't come up at the planning committee meeting, but on behalf of the finance committee, who pays for this?
This is funded by the Ceramic Arts Studio. There is some planning already within landscaping to do some work in there that was previously planned in part of their budget. So there's a little bit of contribution. There'll be a little bit of a contribution in terms of assistance and oversight, but the main funding of the actual project all comes from the Ceramic Arts Studio.
And will we see plans for the landscaping later in the project?
Yes, we'll bring it back kind of as a collective project to planning.
All right, so today we're just voting to give approval to move forward. Is there a motion? Ted?
I'd like to make a motion to approve for a public art installation by the Ceramic Club for the area behind the ceramic, I don't know what's the name of that area, the garden area or near the totem, where the totems are at right now.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mary seconds it. Any further discussion? Okay. Deborah, could you do a roll call, please?
Certainly. Hamaji,
Yes?
Bentley,
Yes.
Hurt,
Yes.
Byram,
Yes.
Hildreth,
Yes.
Lair,
Yes.
Selden,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes?
and Yang.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the policy committee. Mary Hurd is our chair, but she's asked Jeff to give a quick overview of the policies that we're looking at for a first reading.
So there are 3 policies that the committee reviewed. This was originally presented to the committee, and they had a recommendation to the board, but during the board initial review, it was sent back to policy for a few further edits. The policies are policy 100, 101.1, and 104.5. These really have to do with our harassment policy, our hearings policy, so in case of a violation, and an overall policy regarding violations of rules, procedures, or policies. The report talks about the various changes that were made after the first board review and the subsequent policy committee consideration. There was a request that the phrase consistent with policy 101.1 be added under policy 100, and that was done. Under policy 101.1 hearings procedure, it was clarified that the hearings were for members if it was a violation of a rule or a policy by a vendor or staff that is handled by a different procedure. And then there was more significant changes under the harassment policy. There was an expanded portion that talked about social media and emails and texts, and further clarified that the behavior violations consistent with residents and guests are a little bit different than those of vendors and staff, again, how they are handled. Law enforcement language was updated that individuals that are subject to harassment need to report that to law enforcement as they deem necessary. And then terminology, the reference to members in the disciplinary section was not modified as it correctly pertains to members in hearings under policy 101.1. If the incident involves vendors or employees, the matter would be handled through HR or contractual procedures. The report contains the three policies in red line version, and we can certainly go through any individual policy.
Are there any questions for Jeff or discussion about the policies? Okay, this is a first reading,
This is
so
the
there's no
first reading.
vote here. Thank you, Jeff. Now we'll move on to the Community Services KPI Task Force. Susan, if you could give us an overview.
Certainly. The task force has had 2 meetings in early November and just on Tuesday, December 2nd. We are a 5-member team with board members Adrian Byram, Janet Selden, myself, Alan Fitzgerald from the Golf Advisory Committee, and Nancy Castile from the Finance Committee, who's serving as our vice chair. Board member Dwight Walker is an ex officio member, and we also have 2 fellows, Ife Ojo and Joyce Dallasay from the UC Berkeley Haas School Center for Social Sector Leadership. Our charge is to develop key performance indicators to measure the effectiveness and impact of community services, programs, and amenities. Although there are many services that Rossmore provides to residents, we are focusing in particular on community services. So there's much interest and many suggestions about the focus of our task force. In our first meeting, we discussed the RWC coupon, club metrics, and designated use amenities. In our second meeting, we had a detailed review of the metrics and data that are currently being collected for community service activities, which include recreation, custodial services, transportation, fitness, aquatics, counseling, golf, and facility vehicle maintenance. So there's a lot of data available about services being delivered, but a key question is how do we use these metrics to evaluate the effectiveness of the services? Where is the unmet need, or how are the services being used and perceived by our residents? So preliminarily, and I want to say preliminarily, the task force will focus on KPIs for recreation, custodial services, and transportation. You'll hear more from that, of course, in the future, and our fellows will develop a project to support efforts of the task force and will likely focus on measuring customer satisfaction. Our next meeting is January 6th at 1 p.m. in the boardroom, and we're going to complete our work by April, so we really have a limited period of time and a lot to do, and all residents are welcome.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Susan? Okay. We have no unfinished business, and new business is the topic of appointing 2 club members to the Golf Advisory Committee. So, Jeff, could you give us, or Deborah, could you give us an overview of that?
Absolutely. So each year, the club representatives that are members on the Golf Advisory Committee, they have term limits. And so this year, as 2 members are terming off, 2 members are coming back. So the Women's 18-Hole Club has recommended the appointment of Marcia Jennings as their club representative on the committee. And then the Happy Hackers reappointed Kurt Close as their club's representative for the Golf Advisory Committee. And this is for a 2-year term effective January 1st, 2026. So this is to the board for approval.
Okay, are there any questions about that? And do we have a motion?
I'll make the
Janet?
motion. I move that the board accept the recommendation of the club to appoint Marcia Jennings as the club's representative for a 2-year term effective January 1, 2026. And by the Happy Hackers Club, the appointment of Kurt Close as the club's representative to the Golf Advisory Committee effective January 1, 2026 for a period of 2 years.
She didn't even finish speaking yet. Okay, Dwight seconds. Any further discussion? All right, Deborah, could you do a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Hamaji?
Yes?
Bentley?
Yes.
Hurt?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hildreth?
Yes?
Blair?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes?
And Yang.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to announcements. There will not be a mid-month regular meeting of the board in December, and the end-of-month regular meeting of the board for January will be held January 29th here at 9 a.m. Right now, we'll recess into executive session. Thanks, everybody.